was established and guided by the work of a handful of environmental heroes in 1994. They set the tone for what would become a very viable organization. Its first home was at Laredo Community College, beginning with the triumvirate of biology professors, Dr. Jim Earhart, Dr. Tom Vaughn, and Pamela Vaughn, and others who were interested in the organization. The doctors, Earhart, Vaughn, and Pamela Vaughn, who wrote the Rgisc mission, decided what the work would be at that time. There was no money at that time to do anything except talk about it, publish about it, and appear at public meetings, the city council meetings, and to start organizing meetings for the organization. But they were very dedicated in what they said. They were science-based, and of course that's one of the reasons Rgisc has always had credibility, is that science has been one of its cornerstones for viability.
The reason we even thought about doing anything like this was there were constant reports in the news of how polluted the Rio Grande is, especially at Laredo. Our interest, Dr. Jim Earhart, my wife Pam, Tom Miller, and several other people got together and started thinking about learning about what's really going on. Because we would talk to people from the Texas Water Commission and ask them, well, how polluted is the river? And they say, well, we don't really know. We don't really do a lot of work on the Rio Grande. And so we thought this would be an opportunity to learn something about it. And I consider myself first and foremost an educator. And I thought it would be important to know about the conditions of the river so I could communicate that with students and the public in general. So that's kind of the way we got started, is just as an idea about learning what's actually going on in the river, especially in the region of Laredo and Oil Laredo.
I had been working downtown as a merchant and sold them some rafts for the river. And so that was my first acquaintance with them. Soon thereafter, they were looking for a place to get the story out about our river, which of course in 1993 had been declared an endangered river because of the pollution that was being recorded. They came up with the idea to start with the Rio Grande International Science Center to become this entity that would then lease land from the college. And so the buildings and 50 acres of land were then leased for the nominal $1 a year, and the work began planning on the Paso del Indio Trail. The trail is the starting point. It was the reason why Laredo is even here. By securing it and then laying out more or less, it's almost exactly a mile that goes on the high bank and then closer to the river, we developed this first nature trail.
23rd year member of Rgisc. I was brought on because they were just getting ready to start planting trees at the Lamar Brewer Environmental Science Center.
One of the things that we really pushed for, and it came to pass, was starting an environmental science center. And so the Lamar Bruni regarding Environmental Science Center, that has led to the education of thousands of young people.
It was one of my experiences, and that I experienced with Jim and Tom, was to serve on the Citizens Environmental Advisory Committee to write the first hazmat ordinance for the city of Laredo, and to work in a group that was part logistics and transportation people who didn't have an agenda that we did. The St. Mary's Environmental Justice Law Clinic, the ordinance was written. Everybody thought they were treated fairly. Everybody thought they'd gotten what they wanted. And it was a real lesson in sitting at a table and working it out till the work was done. The work took a long time. It took more than a year.
At the foundation of great cities are its institutions. And in my view, Rgisc is one of the critical institutions for the city of Laredo. From its role as an advocate for the river, to its role as an educator on environmental issue and policy, it plays an important role in developing the consciousness and the identity of our city.
Another person that really made things viable and sustaining for Rgisc was Lawrence Mann, who incorporated Rgisc as a 501c3 nonprofit, which enabled the organization to ask for and receive grant funds.
Thanks to the volunteers, there's thousands of volunteers that help Rgisc in its mission. We can't say enough about them, as well as our sponsors, as well as our donors, foundations that help the cause. We're deeply indebted to their efforts.
Somehow, through these 25 years, it has been sustainable. It has grown in the public's eye as something that is very good for this community.
I was aware of the community advocacy that they had done on the plastic bag ordinance and on wetland protections.
I am fascinated with the work that Rgisc does because it is so much more than being an advocate for the environment. Really what Rgisc does is build relationships between the community. Sustainability is core to what Rgisc does, but they do it in a very beautiful way because they introduce the community to their environment and then they show them how to create a sustainable relationship with that environment.
Dr. Earhart sent me the pictures that he had taken of the wetland, and it was a beautiful tropical paradise. And I loved it, and I cried, and I called him up, and I said, Dr. Earhart, can the Greens want to help you? We went out and collected signatures, and Socorro also was involved in all our group, and professors and students and environmental groups. We had collected 2,500 signatures within 10 days. And by the end of the month, we had collected a historical number of 13,000 signatures.
I think the Rio Grande International Study Center has had a big impact on the environmental conditions in the Laredo and the river in general. We were involved in a number of ordinances. The Green Space Ordinance is one that has had lasting effects on development.
Laredo didn't view creeks and detention ponds the way they see them today. North Central Park created a paradigm shift in Laredo, where all of a sudden people realized that you could take these creek areas, protect them, restore them in some cases, and use them for active and passive recreation, birding, soccer, walking, hiking, biking, all the things that are being done now at North Central Park. Up until that point, people will build right up to the edge of the creek, and then they had all sorts of issues with broken foundations, flooding, all the things that were happening where developers had built all the way to the edge of the creek in an effort to maximize their densities.
When I was looking to build a home, I was looking to buy a home by the park, and I happened to learn that they were planning to use a big chunk of that land for a museum. I thought that who better to go to than Rgisc. Without Rgisc, I don't think we would have won that fight. It took a lot of coordination. They brought in different members of the different community organizations like Our Laredo, different veterans organizations, and really rallied the public to oppose this destructive project.
Environmental justice requires working with people at the grassroots. It can't be an academic endeavor. It is something real and concrete that is occurring in different communities, and oftentimes it's poor marginalized communities that suffer the impacts of dumping, environmental waste dumping, water plants that go bad, that the water quality is not there for them, and that nobody really cares. It's corrupt in the way it's being done. Here, the Border Patrol in Barrio de Colores case, for example, where they didn't care if they were going to drop this herbicide from the sky on these families living in Barrio Colores and in El Cuatro and Barrio El Azteca as well. It didn't matter because they were Hispanic working class communities, which they never expected to go into action and defend themselves from such an attack and assault, offensive one at that. And RGC understands that dynamic, the importance of working at the grassroots.
Groups like this, organizations that will go out and stand up for everyone are so important, and I'm really honored to be a part of the organization.
Rgisc is a tiny organization with a tiny budget, but they have grand ideas and grand goals, and they have, since their formation 25 years ago, have achieved many accomplishments. Among them, the plastic bag ban, the pushing for the water quality and the dumping of the sewage from the Nuevo Laredo, and on the U.S. side as well, and just protecting the environmental spaces that are throughout our city. They try to maintain a quality of life living for the region, and I support that immensely.
Really impressed with the passion that everybody in the organization has for the environment. It's sincere, it's palpable, and that's really inspiring to want to be part of an organization that does the kind of work that RGC does, work that's going to impact everybody.
The Rio Grande International Study Center has tested the waters of Rio Grande for more than 25 years at, above and below Laredo and at the Webb Zapata County line. The importance of that activity is that the data has been shared consistently with local, state, and federal agencies who want a snapshot of what's happening in the river.
We decided we'd set up a program, a monthly program, monitoring 4 sites initially on the river, one upstream of Laredo so we could see what the water quality was as it came into Laredo, one more or less in town, one just below the city of Laredo and Nuevo Laredo, and then one further down at the Webb Zapata County line. And certainly one of the big concerns back in those days was raw sewage from Nuevo Laredo. Over time, those conditions have improved. Our information today is there's still about 6 million gallons of raw sewage going into the river every day from Nuevo Laredo.
The city of Laredo has a lot of programs, but we can't do it alone. We can't do it alone. It's a large project, and RGC comes in to play and helps us organize, helps us keep us focused on the river, and in essence clean up the river so that people can enjoy it.
And I've always told my students, we talk about politics, and we talk about who the important politicians are, and I've always told people that really it's the local politics that matter. It's the city council and the mayor and people like that really are important in making decisions that affect us on a daily basis.
If good things continue to happen for us, for RGC, there's a proposal to establish real-time monitoring in the river that would give us the same parameters that the manual testing has done, but would also alert as to flood levels, levels of heavy metals, a spill, an invaluable resource, not only for Laredo, but for everything below Laredo as well.
We were commenting how nice the river is that above Laredo, from Eagle Pass to Laredo, it's one of the best pieces of river that we have in the whole basin as far as quality of water, quality of what you could see. So, we can emphasize that.
When the Rio Grande International Study Center stepped up and started to assist the Monte Mucho Audubon Society with the Birding Festival, it really took off. And we feel that it is a very natural connection to have with the study center because the river of course, is a primary area for the avian species to live and breed and create opportunities for birders to go down and observe these species. I'd say that at least 60% of our species reside or migrate through this river.
The river is actually in peril. If the border wall goes up, this river will suffer disastrous effects.
Rgisc has taken a leadership role in fighting the border wall that has been at the center of national politics for some time now. And I have had the fortune, as a member of our community, to be part of a coalition that is led by Rgisc and its leaders to combat that wall, not only from the environmental aspect of it, but also the political aspect of it.
Which actually impact us as well, because we enjoy all of that. It's part of our lives, and it always has been. That's a very serious thing to consider happening to this river, which makes Rgisc's advocacy even more important at this time. And it makes Rgisc's need for funding to do more of that more important.
You know, we have intelligent, progressive thinkers who are creating opportunities for our community, Laredo, to be able to have a voice in these issues. And so I'm very grateful to Rgisc for that, and it's been a great honor to be a part of the fight against the border wall with them.
So, you know, there's a lot of things that make you realize how important the river is. Because, you know, we need to take care of our resources.
You know, looking back historically, Rgisc has done amazing things and has created this foundation to think about what future development looks like, right? So in the next 25 years, we want the Rio Grande to be off of that list of endangered rivers and on the list of some of the 10 best, cleanest rivers in the country and in the world.
Rgisc is really much more than just any one person. It's really a coalition of people within itself. I think of Rgisc as a think tank, and I also see it as a political leader within our community, getting the community involved and engaged.
There are so many different avenues that Rgisc provides for a learner to learn about their world, their environment, and civic engagement. And I think that I love this city, and being a part of something bigger and creating a space for my kids to bring their families to makes a difference to me. I am very moved by that. I envision my kids coming back and my grandkids being here and having this beautiful space to enjoy their lives and to be engaged in their community in a way that connects them to the entire community. This is all about, there is no social class, there aren't any barriers. We all come together to make Laredo a better place. And so that's what moves me so much about what Rgisc does, and why I try to be a part of it and contribute what I can. So, you know, personally, and also thinking about the future of my family, I love being a part of this organization.